Live.
Good morning, Orlando.
Good morning. Coming to you from the Sunshine State
There it is.
of Massachusetts.
It is doomy and gloomy out.
I'm just glad I have my power back on,
Yeah,
or I wouldn't be doing this right now.
yeah. And I'm glad you smell better as a result.
I was not smelling great, and terrible night's sleep. All the bad things, but we have power restored. We're back alive. It's amazing when you live. I feel like when the power went out, like if the power went out when we lived in Quincy, I feel like you just didn't have lights. And maybe I'm like remembering it wrong, but like here when the power's out, I don't have anything. Like I'm on a well and like you need electricity to run the well. I mean, I have a furnace which has it has power to it, so there's no power to your house. You have no heat or air conditioning. If it was summer, I can't like I'm the water, so I can't you know brush my teeth with water, like fill water. Like I wake up and I'm like parched and I have no bottled water. Oh man, I can't make coffee. So yeah, it was just like, what do I do?
Yeah,
Bump on a log.
that's the farmland life.
That's right, but that's okay. And then I'm like, oh, that's why everyone has a generator out here.
That was going to be my next thing. Well,
I heard my neighbor's generator running all night, and I'm just jealous because the power went off at like 1.
Yeah.
And I can just hear the generator running.
Well, us city folk had different problems, like flooding.
Break-ins.
This house is a flip. So, where are we going to look today?
All right, let's take a look. I think we're going to do Pittsfield.
Let's do Pittsfield. Let's go about an hour west of where we are.
Pittsfield, Massachusetts, probably the last city. I don't know if I guess it's a city, but it's like the most westward city of Massachusetts.
This is the last stop.
6 results of single families. Doesn't look like any distressed singles. Let's try multis. All right. Couple right off the bat.
Right off the bat?
A couple auctions. This reminds me of like Brockton when there was auctions every other week.
They can be a great way to get a house with some immediate value under market. Yeah. Now you just got to fight the banks because they're greedy.
That's right. It's funny they'll hold on to something forever and not sell it. Look at this, 3 auctions, 3 2-family auctions. It's like they'll rather lose money than sell it for what it's actually worth.
Yeah.
And then eventually they just, I think we did that on a property in Brockton. Like it was a bank owned. It could be West Chestnut, if I'm remembering this right. But it was bank owned, and I don't know what the number was. Say they wanted $400,000 for it, and we offered $320,000. They were like, nope. Sat on the market forever. And then, I think you talk to the agent like once a month. And then a few months later, they ended up giving it to us for $320,000 or whatever the number was. Like it was well below what they wanted for it initially. And they could have just sold it to us, 4 to 6 months earlier.
Hey, follow up is the name of the game. We had Marek on for our podcast. He'll be joining a Find That Flip in New Jersey soon enough, but followed up for 5 years on one of those deals. That's
right.
Really, usually the listing price is a lie, or sometimes it's a joke, and it's all about just following up.
That's right. All right, you want to start with this cheapest one here?
Do it.
8688 Madison Avenue. It's a charming little 2-family.
Oh, and it's vacant.
That's a huge plus. That was another one when I was just scrolling that was occupied. This looks like electric baseboard heat, which is good because even if this needs to be repaired or replaced, excuse me, it is relatively inexpensive. So you don't have if you already have your your wiring run for those, and if you have a heat issue, you're just replacing baseboard heaters rather than replacing like two boilers or something. A
Oh,
lot less expensive. Not a lot of other photos. I mean, the exterior needs some love. Looks like you need some. It probably needs a roof. Needs maybe some, uh, some roofing work up in here. Probably some windows. I mean, hard to tell what the rest of it looks like.
a lot of windows. Looks like that's a used to be like a screened-in porch maybe on the front that they've enclosed.
Yeah, but I mean, from the very limited photos we have, by and large, it looks to be like in relatively good condition.
Good thing about these types of properties out there is these are good cash flow properties.
For sure. For sure. You want to underwrite this as if we were going to buy and hold it as a Section 8 rental.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We could look at two family like sold comps and then, look at cash flow too if we're going to hold it as a rental. Because I mean, they only want 107,000 for this. So I don't know how much lower you can negotiate it. But or if you even really need to. But let's see here. All right. So it's a 3-bed, 2 3-bed units. Let's go to the listing. Sorry.
Wow, 3 bedrooms too.
Okay, yeah, townhouse too. So one unit on one side, one unit on the other, which just makes it way easier to work on. Let's see, 6 bedrooms, so 3 bedrooms in each unit, 2 bathrooms, 1 bathroom in each unit. Oh, property currently occupied. Then the photos must have been of the vacant unit, which explains why there's not a lot of photos. Oh, I don't know. Maybe it's occupied on both sides. Maybe they're just old photos. Hard to tell. All right.
You have the sniffles.
I do have the sniffles. Well, I think it's allergies now, actually.
Oh, really? 'Tis the season.
Yeah, I'm sneezing. Seller never occupied. Seller. All right. Auction. No info. Wow. Been on for 278 days. Look at that.
So did it fall in and out a couple times?
Because they wanted way too much. No, I think they just wanted too much and expired, reactivated, compensation changed, minimum bid lowered. Look at this. If you've been keeping your eye on this, this has come down and, come further and further down.
Yeah.
All right.
Must be a lot of people don't want to buy foreclosures with people in place.
No, they don't. I would just immediately do a cash for keys situation. I'm sure you could, $5,000 is a lot to someone who has nothing and is living for free.
Well, it's
for free.
It's a decent alternative to going the eviction route where, if it takes a couple months, but if you win the eviction route, they don't get anything.
Right. All right. So let's check on comps and rents for 3 beds, right?
Yep.
Why do I keep getting kicked out? $86. Let's see what we've got in the past mile. Oh no, this is my bad. There we go. That makes more sense. Purchase comp sold for 70 grand.
70 grand. Wow.
2 3-bed, 1 bath. Oh, this probably needs a little more work.
That one looks rougher.
But really, it might just look worse. It might just be dirtier.
Days to offer only 17.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, not a comp.
Still needs a little bit.
Yeah. No interior photos. Still more no interior photos.
Come on, agents.
All right. Sold for $265. Okay.
There you go.
There you go. Probably that. And honestly, these cabinets and appliances look a little older, but I don't know for Pittsfield and what we're seeing here. I don't know if doing any more work, like making this any higher quality, is going to really increase your property value by that much.
Yeah. There you go. That's a good comp. 287 side by side.
Yeah, a little larger. Maybe I was wrong. It's okay. I've been known to be wrong once or twice in my life.
Once or twice. We don't hold it against you.
This is like a flip renovated 296. Yeah, this is your top of market for a 2-family. That's what I'm seeing. Oh, no. There we go. I'm wrong again. Well, this is larger. I take it, I'm not wrong. This is larger. How many square feet is ours?
I don't remember.
Me either. Let's go back. 2,100 square feet. So not super big. All right, where was I? 2,800 square feet. A lot of times multifamily bedroom count is more important than square footage. Square footage could be nice, but look at this. A 4-family. We should buy this. 2 beds in each unit, listed for $289. Sheesh. All right.
That one's interesting.
Which one?
That one.
This one?
Yeah. What is that? Is that
de-leaded 3-family? It's sold $282.
It's cool looking. Those big columns.
Let me get back to it.
They got plenty of photos.
They have plenty of photos. This agent did a great job. Thank you. Oh, yeah.
I wonder if there used to be porches on the front.
That's my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is your flip 2-family. This is a little larger, but sold for $296. Wow, look at these.
Like those red porches.
Imagine if this has like little maintenance issues. Man, what a cash cow. $319 for 4 units. All right. This is the other flip comp, but this is much larger, $325. Okay. So your probably best bet if you wanted to flip this thing, you're probably looking at $300 highest. Probably I'd maybe even go a little lower because it's smaller, like $275.
Okay. And they want about 107, right?
You want 107.
Well,
based on what I know about unit turnovers in our buildings, my guess is you're probably going to do a good amount of work because you want these to be nice. If you're going to go through all this trouble, like a property in this condition, probably looking at about $25,000 to $30,000 per unit.
assuming nothing, and that's not like assuming any big glaring.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be able to get like a new basic set of cabinets. You're going to be able to floor the unit, all your cosmetic repairs. You'll be able to do things like electric heat, a couple windows. I wouldn't go replace all the windows on the house if it doesn't need it. This is something where you're only going to replace the windows that need it. You're going to need a roof, so you want to add in some additional exterior repairs. I would say you're probably in the range of 60 to 75,000 all in on these repairs.
Okay.
Just based on just kind of pulling that out of my ass from seeing these photos. But I bet if we went to walk it, I bet I'd be in the ballpark.
Okay.
If you're all in for 175 and it sells for 275, it's not a bad little flip.
No, it's not. 70% all in is about 192,000. So,
even if you only can get 250 for it, which I think is you could shoe that in. You're still safe, right?
The biggest hurdle on a project like this is the tenant in place.
100%. Yeah, you probably want to account. You probably want to budget 10 to 20 grand for getting rid of those two. If there's two tenants, if it's one, maybe 10,000. If it's two, 20,000, and that's accounting for, holding expense, / cash for keys / attorney for eviction, and like your holding time while like trying to get the tenant out.
Right.
All of those things. Those are really the three factors, right? The time you're losing, and either the money you're giving the tenant to move out, or the money you're paying to the attorney to get them out. Probably
right.
On the safe side, you could be less, but 10,000 per tenant, I think is pretty safe.
So what's the we're gonna go to HUD user, check out these.
Let's check that out. All right. Fair market rent. If anyone doesn't know this website, if you like to invest in these secondary, tertiary markets where property is super cheap, but you don't know, you're like, a lot of people will see markets where property is really cheap and you're like, okay, well, this looks like a cash cow market. But then you drive through it and maybe it looks like, oh, maybe I'm not going to get the best tenants here, whatever. I don't know what the rent, what I can get for rent. There are, especially if you are, we work exclusively in Massachusetts, so I guess I can only speak for Mass. But if you're in Massachusetts or any state that has, pretty solid Section 8 market, utilize this website, because if you're looking at, buying a 2-family or a 3-family, if you need to fill 100 units, you're talking a totally different strategy, right? But if you're looking at picking up a couple small multifamilies, you're going to have Section 8 applicants to choose from. And that is going to be your best route to go to protect your collections if you're working in a market where you're a little worried about, sort of the economics of the market, the job opportunities, the incomes that are available. This is how you're going to be able to protect yourself. And these local housing authorities use the data from Housing and Urban Development, right? HUD, to effectively to determine what a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom in a marketplace will lease for. So this is what we use this is how we underwrite what we can rent our units for. That's what we're going to do for Pittsfield.
So what we recommend is, this is a great starting point, and then call the local housing authority and have a conversation with them personally, because, this isn't perfect. Sometimes the numbers are a little off. Sometimes the housing authority has, ramp up periods. So there's an asterisk.
Yeah. I actually, when I was looking at, before having the house that I live in now, I was looking at multifamilies in some markets, and I was pleasantly surprised on, kind of trying to do the house hack thing. Buy a 2 or 3 unit, rent a couple units, and live cheaply. Still would have been a good idea. Not that I don't love where I'm at now, But it's always a good idea if you're looking to buy your first property. Always a good idea buying a multifamily, something you could add some value to over time and decrease your living expenses by renting other units. But yeah, I called some local housing authorities because I think the town I was looking didn't have a housing authority, but I found the next closest one and I called them. It was a smaller town, so they were like, quick to answer the phone, answer my questions. And they were like, yeah, for this town you're looking in, rent for a 3-bedroom would be 1,500 or whatever it was. So it was a great way for me to try to figure out what my living, how much it would cost me to live there. But all right,
we should write an offer on this deal.
Truly. So 2 bedrooms, 1,571 for 2025. Obviously, efficiency would be studio, 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. Pittsfield has really strong numbers. I kind of already knew this relative to your cost per unit. But so in this 1,571, I believe that includes if you're including utilities, right?
Correct. But our property has 2 3-bedroom units.
Oh, 2 3-bedroom units. That's right. My bad. 2 3-bedroom units. So 2016. So these numbers assume that the landlord is including utilities. And if you're not including utilities, then, knock off 100 to 150 bucks from what you propose. But you can propose anything to the housing authority. So say, we bought this deal, we go to lease these 2 3-bedrooms, I say, okay, they're 2,000 bucks. And this happens a lot, on our units now. And the tenant, we find the tenant through a couple of different, websites and different strategies to identify tenants that have legitimate housing vouchers. A lot of people will say they have assistance, but they have different programs. It's not really the same thing. But we know how to identify tenants with legitimate housing vouchers that are effectively permanent. And say like in Holyoke, they come from the Holyoke Housing Authority. We show them the unit, they like it, and they say, how much is the rent? I say, well, say this 3-bed, it's $2,000. They say, okay, that's not as important to the tenant because they know that they work with their case manager at Holyoke Housing Authority in this example, and they will, based on their income, they'll pay a percentage of rent that is something that they can afford. So then you really just negotiate this rent. Really, you negotiate it with the housing authority. So if I propose a $2,000 rent to the Holyoke Housing Authority, then they may come back and say, now you do have to have supporting comps before I get too far ahead of myself, you do need to support this proposed rent with other similar units. So if you don't own any other units in the market, then you can find comps just through different apartment listings. But you need to support your justification for why I want to rent this for $2,000. And then the housing authority will say sometimes they'll approve it, and sometimes they'll come back and say, well, for this unit to be affordable for this tenant, the rent can be a maximum of $1,875. Will you accept that? Of course, I'm going to say yes, right? Because if I think I have a solid tenant, the housing authority is going to pay 70 to 90% of that, and then I can count on those deposits every month. And those tenants tend to stay 5 to 7 years.
Ooh, good question from Carolyn. Multi-unit philosophy is great. How do you screen potential renters? One bad renter could financially ruin you.
Great question. I like to say I treat it like a job interview. I straight tell the tenants when I'm interviewing them, I said, I'm sorry if this sounds like an interview, but it is. It's really important that we have high quality tenants, that, we have larger buildings that are, 8+ units. So if I'm filling a vacancy, I'm emphasizing that any new tenant that moves into the building is going to be adding to the quality of life of the building, not subtracting from it. So it's really important that I have high quality tenants, and I'm kind of make them feel like I'm putting them through the ringer. But we have them fill out a comprehensive application that's online, and we put them through a few basic steps. And if they can't, do, complete these easy 1, 2, 3 directional steps, then um,
The sign.
yeah, it's a sign that, they probably can't be relied upon. But we'll put them through the application. We will speak to them on the phone. I'll ask them some questions. Once we sort of pre-qualify them and make sure everything checks out and they can complete some basic, they can follow some basic direction. Then I'll meet them at the property, do a showing, ask them more questions. Really try to grill them on, in a good way, right? But like their rental history, like get to know a little bit about their life, what's going on, and really just try to assess the quality of person. And then one of the biggest things you can do would be calling their past landlord references. So if they can give you landlord references that are, and you call a past landlord and they say, "Yep, I've had no problem with this tenant," that's what you really need, in addition to a background and credit check. The credit component is less important than the background, making sure that they have no prior evictions and no violent criminal history.
Yeah.
So the leasing process is a bit slow, just because there's 4 or 5 sort of touches with the tenant between myself as the landlord and them as the tenant to really heavily vet them. And make sure that they're not going to be a problem. And, you don't always get it right. But now I would say since we've really refined this strategy, I think we're probably 90-95% quality tenants. And then the 5 or 10% that are kind of bad eggs, it's not because they have housing vouchers. Actually, the ones I'm thinking of, they do have housing vouchers. We're only, it's like less than $500 collectively between a couple tenants that we're not collecting, that we're working now, and then we're going to work to evict them. But, we're still receiving those payments from the housing authority. So we're mitigating our risk in that way.
Penelope said, vet, and vet one more time. And Section 8 gets a bad rep, but it's a good way to build wealth. It is. I think most people get hung up sometimes is when you're working in, challenging or emerging markets, you have to understand that there are problems above and beyond just real estate in that area. So you might not expect to be working in this role, but it just requires a bit more administrative support and help. Certain things that you might think or feel and sound like common sense ideas, you might need to do a little more hand-holding, a little bit more coaching along the way. So take everything with a grain of salt, treat everybody kindly with respect, and typically you catch more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. There's another, Carolyn, there's another thing you can do is there's third-party programs like the Guarantors. It's an insurance agency out of New York, Manhattan, and they do rental insurance policies for tenant-landlord relationships. So landlords who want to work with them can effectively have the tenant buy a policy. You can actually get 12 months of coverage for less than your last deposit. So the landlord can get a little bit more coverage, and in the event that you have to remove the tenant for some way, shape, or form, once you remove them, then you can file a claim, and they say they pay out in 7 to 10 days. We haven't been there with them yet, but we will be working with them on a handful of our new lease ups. And the good thing about leveraging a third party like that, it's free to the landlord, and then they also have their own kind of AI-driven underwriting, platform, and they boast a 92%, efficiency rating there. So, a couple different ways to screen tenants. Kind of the worst case. Harrison talking about some bad eggs that aren't really paying their portion. The housing agency is still paying their portion, and really at the end of the day, if you do work to remove these tenants for non-payment of rent, they normally can't just move their voucher over to another property and start over again. They have to be in good standing with their landlord. So they might have a long fuse, they might get 6 months behind and then make a big payment to catch up everything, but they typically have to be paid in full before they can move that voucher over. And a lot of the guarantors, Penelope, that's the name of the group, the guarantors in New York. But basically, the most of these communities don't have enough housing to keep up with the demand anyway, and there's a lot of demand for these types of affordable housing and voucher housing program types of real estate. So, a lot of these wait lists are like 7 to 15 years. So people don't want to lose their housing voucher. You might have to, do a little bit more ground maintenance, a little bit more babysitting in some ways. Not always. A lot of times they're just normal people that are given a bad hand and they need a little bit of help. But Section 8 kind of gets a bad rep, right? And they always think of the worst of the worst, and that's usually not the case. But it's a great model to help ensure consistent income, because we've been there, Carolyn. We've had the bad tenants. We've inherited bad tenants. We've worked with less desirable programs for rent collection payments that really didn't work out the way we wanted them to, and chalk that up to the school of hard knocks and learning on the fly. But fall forward. So those are a couple good ways to help ensure rent collection.
That's right. And oh my God, what was I going to say? Oh, and these programs are, really good for because when you have a community that has like a large amount of the housing stock is, distressed, it's got to be financially viable for an investor or someone to come in and buy the property, fix it up, and rent it out, and then own and maintain it. So it is these programs can be really helpful in making these deals viable for these investors. So like us, if we thought that we were going to, every property we had, that these programs weren't available, and we were going to have to rely on sort of the local economy and the you're like there was really that there wasn't that net for us, then we would be way more incentivized to just go work and develop in a safer market. And so then those areas are then going to see much slower improvement in the quality of the property. That's what I was trying to get to.
And sometimes the Section 8 or the affordable housing or any of those voucher programs, sometimes they pay more than what your typical renter does. And when we've seen that in a handful of emerging markets, we see it in Holyoke. We're definitely seeing it in Pittsfield, because I would bet some market rate rents sometimes aren't pushing $2,000. And then we've seen it in Brockton. We did a deal on Wyman Street in Brockton, and the rent at the time we probably could have gotten was, say, $1,450. It was nice new, but they were small units. But Section 8 paid $1,950, and it was they beat the market with Section 8.
Yeah, it was great. All right, so we want to try to figure out the value of this thing. I was doing some math earlier. If we're conservatively, I think if what was it? They're 3 beds. So 2016, let's just say we can get $1,850 for each unit. Times 2 units is $3,700 a month. 12 months.
What's up?
Still in here?
Yeah, he just hit the chat. We're doing good, man. We've done about $72 million in transactions since we started your coaching program. COVID was absolutely brutal, but where there's a will, there's a way, and we've basically transitioned our company. We're still doing developments, but now we've switched our financing model over to a private equity development model. So bootstrapping our first private equity fund, And yeah, we got 15 buildings here in Western Massachusetts, a lot of development deals, and now we're streaming live deals that we're looking at. So Bill Twyford, guys, was our OG real estate coach, helping us learn how to knock on doors and talk to homeowners that were in distress to help them get out and make some money along the way. Hit them up if you're interested in some coaching.
That's right. All right, where was I?
Go Brockton. You
Go
point.
We should have stuck to Brockton.
Some of those numbers are crazy now.
Oh man! All right, so for this guy, if we're renting these at $1,850, it's a little over $44,000 a year in total rent. Now this is a 2-family. If I'm going to renovate the whole thing, then I'm likely decreasing my expense ratio. But I think a 35% expense ratio is probably pretty conservative. What do you think?
You know what? Let's go 40.
40? All right.
40. Insurances have been expensive. We don't know that we don't pay the utilities.
Yeah, insurance is brutal. So that would be with a 40% expense ratio, that gives us a net operating income estimate of $26,640. All right. So if this is this is a 2-family, it's going to, they're not going to, an appraiser's not going to appraise this on its performance, but if they were, this is probably a newly renovated property, is probably a 9 cap property. You're still looking at a little under $300,000, $296,000 property value. And that seems to be in line with some of these other comps, which were, what did I see here? You see 287, 265. This one's a little more dated. Not as done as if you had renovated something. 296, this is kind of, see, look at that. Almost spot on.
Almost spot on.
So I think, that 275 to 300 range is a good estimation of value. And then if I go to the bank, and what are we thinking we're into this guy for? What did we say? Like 175, maybe 200,000?
Give or take. I think
let's say 200,000 at the. If we spent more than $100,000 on this property, we need to find a new job.
I don't say that. Don't say that.
I would be very, very, very surprised. All right, so we're into this guy for 200,000. If it appraises at 296. And what are we seeing for loan terms these days?
7%.
7%, and what? Maybe like a 70% loan to value.
Yeah. You could probably go a little bit higher on that, but I think keeping some equity in the property is a good idea.
Yeah. So if you can go refinance this at a 70% LTV and it appraises, for just under 300,000. Then you can, you can look at getting a new loan of around $207,000, which is, right around what we would expect to put into this.
Right.
So if I'm doing this deal, if I've got, let's say I've got 200 grand burning a hole in my pocket, I buy this for 107, put 75 ish into it. Maybe, say we're up to 200, and then, the property's all fixed up, and then go find 2 tenants, lease it for $1,850 to $2,000 per month per unit, and then I go to a bank and I refinance this and get a new loan for probably right around the same amount of money I put into it, pull all my cash back out, and then I rinse and repeat and go do it again.
So that's called the BRRRR model: buy, renovate, refinance, repeat.
That's right. And it's not always as simple as that by any means. It's a little more simple on, doing this on a 2 or 3 family than, our size buildings. Just with as things scale, things can become a little more complicated and there's more nuance. But yeah, on a 2 family, I mean, this thing's going to be easy to work on. It's not very big. You want it to be clean, functional, safe, and and things that are, if they do break, they're easily replaceable. You
For
don't
the
need to
for the record, I mean, doing this at a larger scale and making it look easy comes with time and experience and most likely a talented team. But at the end of the day, that really is what developers of most sizes are doing. Even if they're looking at real estate investments with, hey, I don't really need to make a lot of money with my money. I need to protect my money in an asset that I know isn't going to go anywhere. They still end up doing the same model a lot of the times, and that's how people acquire a tremendous portfolio of real estate, because you can just keep rinsing and repeating this model over and over and over again, and then you can leverage tools like the 1031 tax exchange. So let's say you bought 4 of these properties, and then you wanted to sell all 4 and take all the profit and put it into a bigger building. You can do something called a 1031 exchange, roll all the profits over into the new investment and not actually have to pay taxes on it yet. You can defer those taxes. And then real estate's a great way for paper losses and tax write-offs. So now you can look to buy a new development that has new paper losses to help offset some of this other income. And this is really what, how a lot of the power players and rich guys and gals continue to grow their wealth in real estate. And Will, Mr. Twyford, we would love to have you on a live stream. I'm gonna hit you up off this, and we'll have you come in, and you can get your face up here, and we can talk about our deals together, and we can look at Brockton again. Maybe we can get Adelino back. Maybe we can get Adelino on this. Have it be a fun big call.
That'd be great.
Cool. I think, guys, this is a good time to stop. Thank you, everybody, for checking us out. We'll see you tomorrow, and hit us up in the comments. Let us know if you want to look at some additional markets specifically. We're kind of just spinning the wheel and looking all around the state of Massachusetts. Also, for any of you rock stars out there that are agents in, it is sexy, Penelope. It is sexy. And Will, yes, let's get them all. Bill, Will, the whole family, Dwan. And anyway, so if you are in this business and you're in a different state, then we would love to take a Find That Flip ride with you and explore your market. So if you're in Florida or maybe in Texas and you've got access to MLS, then we can work together and live stream. We can live stream together and we can check out your market. That would be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
Okay. Right on. Thank you, everybody. That was awesome. We will see you tomorrow. Peace. God bless you. Have a wonderful Thursday.
All right.
Ciao.